Hello, girls, guys, or otherwise. This is Rich with your Witchy Book Club series. We are going through The Outer Temple of Witchcraft by Christopher Penczak. If you would like to get your own copy to follow along, there is a link below. We are going through chapter 14. This is lesson 10, Turning the Wheel. I was going to uh, break this into two parts. But yeah, it actually worked out kind of nice not breaking it into two parts because the second part I don't have as much to say. So it actually kind of worked out. Unfortunately, for the reason that I had to take off last week, um, was not as great. Let me get some of my life together here. I have the little wooden balls from the Witchy Wednesday. I have those like on my desk and they're just like everywhere. Anyway, let me get things out of the way. Um, I want to first, before going into this week's uh, reading and whatnot, I want to first put it out there for a vote. Do we move on within the temple series? The next one up would be the Temple of Shamanic Witchcraft, which I do have the book. I will be getting it on the Kindle version so it can read it to me, because yeah, that's just so much more convenient for me to actually listen to something and get it in my brain thing that way, rather than let me I don't want to turn that off. That's updating. I have my iPad over here and it's updating, so yeah, I wanted to do that, but the light is let me see if I can just, there we go. That way the light is not shining over this way. Anyway, do we want to go on with the uh, with the Temple of Shamanic Witchcraft? Leave your comments in the comment section below. While you're there, make sure that you're hitting that subscribe button, because YouTube sometimes unsubscribes people, unbeknownst to the individual. And yeah, so make sure that you are subscribed, to make sure that you hit that bell notification so you don't miss any videos, possibly if YouTube deems it. So, and hit that like or dislike button, whichever, it doesn't matter to me. It all appeases the algorithmic gods. If you dislike these videos, do leave in the comments why you dislike these videos. Let's get into this, because that was a little long. In our grandest of traditions, let's let me pull out the drawer here. Give me a little podium. We are going to read the first sentence of this chapter, or the first couple sentences, in this case, the first sentence of the chapter, and see how it really opens up the chapter. He writes, "The wheel of the year is one of the strongest foundation stones on the path of the witch." It is a huge deal in Wicca and in Druidry and multiple pagan practices. Let me readjust my mic here. Um, it is a huge deal because you are connected with the cycles of the earth. It's a nature-based spirituality. So you are first taught the wheel of the year, or that's one of the first teachings. Most people want to get right into the witchcraft and whatnot, but it is an important teaching to teach why we are celebrating certain holidays. If you are celebrating those holidays, why you pay homage to those individual holidays. It is very similar to the Christian church, the Christian traditions out there, the Judaic traditions out there, the Muslim traditions. All religions have different holidays and whatnot, unless you're like Jehovah's Witness, where there's only like one holiday. So yeah, there are different holidays, different reasonings for celebrating those individual holidays and whatnot, and these are things that are taught fairly early on, in order to get that ingrained in you, to have you associate that holiday with a certain action or actions that are being taken. So just like any other religion or practice, learning the wheel of the year, as it is called in many pagan traditions, or that many people in pagan traditions call it. Yes, it is a huge part, is a foundation to why we are doing what we are doing during the times in which we are doing them. Let's go ahead and move on. I don't want to spend too much time on that because we have a lot to cover in this chapter. He goes on, this is on 353 at the bottom here. There is a modern pagan nostalgia for some idealized golden age where these rituals were practiced, just as they are today. Unfortunately, modern scholarship doesn't support this. Absolutely. I think we tend to forget that the practice that we are practicing right now hasn't always been practiced in the way that we are practicing it now. Um, and that's okay. Things can evolve, things can develop, things can change with the times and with our needs. Basically, back in the day, many of these traditions were done in order for survival or for a good crop, a good winter, and whatnot. You know, many of these were surrounded by agricultural needs. Nowadays, we don't have those needs as abundantly. However, we do still have some of those needs. So what we come to is it's okay for these things to change and develop over time. And if it becomes more of a flowery language, that's okay. If it's a little bit more simplified because we want to have a more simplified practice, taking away the tools, taking away the flowery language, taking away the motions and whatnot, that's okay too. Um, and know that, in the past is not where things need to stay. This is a living tradition that we are forming, that we are developing for ourselves and for, whoever is under our tutelage in the future. And that's okay for those things to change, as long as if we know why we're changing those things and what we want to change them into and why we do that. So, moving on 354, he says, I highly doubt there ever was a pure form, since each village or tribe had their own way of celebrating the seasons. Absolutely. You can take something such as, Halloween, or let's take Christmas, easy one. Christmas traditions in America are going to be vastly different from Christmas traditions in Russia or the Middle East or in even in parts of Europe and in specifically like the UK and whatnot. We have different secularized Christmas traditions that are here. Whereas in the UK, you have things like Boxing Day, the day after Christmas. We don't celebrate that here in the US. That's not something that's part of our culture. And just noting that there are differences, even on our grand scale, whenever we are probably more intertwined than ever before because of things like the internet and whatnot. We are more intertwined in each other's existences now than ever before. Knowing that even though we're so intertwined, things are so drastically different, take that into consideration in the past, whenever people weren't as intertwined, and the next tribe about 30 miles down the road could have a drastically different experience for this time of the year, or a drastically different way of practicing and honoring that cycle of the year. So I wanted to note that. Next one I have is on 355. The church started to absorb pagan holidays to gain more willing converts. The rituals would be Christianized and sanitized for the church, and after many generations, people forgot the original meaning of the rituals. Most modern holidays are relics of a pagan past, including Christmas, Easter, and Halloween. To the church, there was little difference between pagan cultures, so differences were not noted. Um, Here's my thing about this, is constantly harping on this is an us versus them thinking. And specifically that last one there, and I'll read it again. To the church, there was little difference between pagan cultures, so differences were not noted. And we still see this today. We have an us versus them. They are not us, so therefore we try to, in our human minds, group them into one singular way, one singular type of person or type of being with a singular belief in one thing or another. We don't really give much nuance to it beyond that, and that can be dangerous. As for the church Christianizing many pagan holidays, absolutely, completely agree. However, do we really need to harp on this every single year? I see it every single year around Ostara Easter time, where somebody will post a picture of who is supposed to be Ostara, or Oester, and has a picture of that, and this is where the word Ostara comes from, and where we get the word Easter and this and that. When in reality, no, it's not a picture of Oester. It is a picture of Lilith. It is a carved into I believe it's a hillside or something like that. It is an ancient carving of what is supposed to be Lilith. So, no, you are completely wrong. Yes, that could be some of the root of the word. However, you're also misrepresenting what you're trying to get across. Um, Also, whenever we're talking about Christmas and Yule, it's okay for people to have different traditions, and that's fine. We can all celebrate them at the same time. It's okay. I don't see a need in harping on the point of, hey, whenever you're celebrating Christmas and you have the tree in there, it's really a Yule thing, and you're taking part in a pagan practice. At a certain point, we just need to, yes, we need to acknowledge that. However, we also don't need to harp on it all the time every year and post 45 different memes on our Facebook page around the December timeframe in order to get our point across. Um, Also, I do want to also note that whenever we were talking about Halloween, there's so much that is stigmatized and put on pagan practices that were not necessarily pagan practices, and then there are some that are Christian practices that the church would rather forget, such as trick-or-treating being a part of the Christian tradition of going souling and asking for soul cakes and whatnot. Um, so yeah, there are certain things that are intertwined, and it is beautiful being intertwined. And do we really need to harp on the fact that one practice was there before another? I don't think so. As long as if we can all agree that yes, the church did do these things, and yes, it is problematic. Um, After a certain point, after we've said our piece, can we kind of like not, beat people over the head with it every single year? Um, yeah, it's just something that sticks in my craw every year. It's the same thing. Ugh. And it's just a pain in my butt now. So anyway, let's move on. We can never go back into the past, so we must create the new traditions of the witch together. Absolutely agree. Um, as long as if we know why we're doing the things that we're doing, why we're progressing the way we are progressing, why we are celebrating the things or the season or um, the aspects that we are celebrating. As long as if we have that, I have no problem expanding a practice and developing something new. That that is something that has given birth to so many practices that are actually very widespread, such as Wicca. Wicca does not go back to the ancient days. No, Wicca in its current incarnation as it is today is fairly new. And we need to talk about that being fairly new. It's okay. It's not something that's terrible. Yes, when considering Wicca, we do take many practices from older traditions. However, it's not that old as a collective. As long as if we know why we're doing it, though, that's fine. Create your own tradition, create your own way of doing things. That's okay. And if you pass that on to somebody else, cool. If they gain meaning from it and it leads to them being a better person, absolutely, I'm there for it. As long as if it doesn't harm anybody, do you, boo. Moving on 356. Remember that each goddess is an expression of the Great Mother. She has many faces. Absolutely. Many faces, many facets to one divine being. And I think we should also look at the same thing when talking about god figures as well. So it's not just the goddess, it's also the god. And I think we need to celebrate both and realize that each are an expression of a greater they are archetypes of a greater being, and that's okay. Moving on page 358, I never thought to ask why we do these rituals. Strangely enough, I never questioned it. Like I questioned so many things. Wow, that was a tongue twister of a sentence. Here he's talking about, just going with the flow and doing the rituals as they are in the books. And for so many years now, I've been a big proponent of knowing why you're doing what you're doing, following Annie's tutelage of knowing the why behind what you do. And that has been the at the heartbeat of my practice, for so many years now. And to question everything. So if you're just starting out on a practice, absolutely question everything that you're doing. Give it scrutiny. Don't just follow through with things because that is the way they are done. Ask why you're doing those things. Examine it. Pull apart the entirety of the ritual if you need to. If there's something that doesn't quite make sense to you, pull it apart. Question it. Realize, what you're doing, and question every part of it. Take a deep dive, because if you're going to be practicing this for a long time, this is something that you need to do so you can grow in that practice. Moving on to 359. Celebrating the wheel has many blessings and responsibilities. We humans in general, but witches in particular, are caretakers and stewards, partner to the cycles of nature. We are loyal members of the Earth tribe and work in partnership with the Mother and Father. We work together like a good clan. And I want to pick this apart a little. I do agree with it. We are caretakers and stewards. I want to start there, because being caretakers and stewards means a lot. For one, let's take something, for example, a stapler. Okay, I am a steward of this stapler, my stapler. I need to care for this thing. This is actually an older one. I need to care for this thing. I need to take care of it. I need to make sure that it's mechanically sound and, give it the honor it's due. It has a purpose here. And if I don't keep with my stewardship and my caretaking of certain items, such as said stapler, then it will not work to its fullest capability. Now, that's a frivolous thing to give so much care and attention to, and I realize that, and there's a reason that I go with something so frivolous, because in the in the grander scheme of things, we have bigger things to be stewards and caretakers of. Jelly, I am a caretaker of jelly. You want to come up here, baby? No, she doesn't want to. Oh, there she is. Hello. Yeah, she's down here on my side. So, you want to come up? Come on. You want to see everybody? No? Okay. No, she doesn't. She just wants me to pet her, which is fine. I am a steward and caretaker of Jelly. She relies on me. There is a bond that has formed and that we cherish. That we take care of one another. That she relies on me to make sure that she is fed and well taken care of, that she has a roof over her head, and I take that responsibility very seriously. Same thing with Karen and with Dobby and with Tonks. I I take that job very seriously. Matter of fact, Dobby and Tonks just had a vet visit the other day, and they have their appointments for their respective spaying and neutering next Wednesday. So, keep them in your thoughts for that. But yeah, I think we need to keep in mind that we are stewards, that we are caretakers of nature, and not only of nature, but the physical things that we have built this house. Recently, like I've told y'all, is that we had a leak in the living room. Well, as part of the stewarding caretaking, that was something that was an accident. So, and caused primarily, I would assume, as much as I know about construction, by Hurricane Ida. So, being a steward of this house, I am doing the insurance claim. I hopefully, get some money from that so I can put it towards fixing the roof and getting a new roof and whatnot. That's part of the caretaking of this home. Same thing with the walls and the insulation and everything else that goes along with this house is making sure that things are top notch. There is a barrier there, but there of finances, but there is also little things that I can do in the meantime. you know so fixing the squeaky hinges, or putting a better doorknob on the front door, for easier entry and whatnot. Stuff like that. Being a steward of this house is something that I am also dealing with as part of being a steward of nature. Now, in being a steward of nature, we have a grander conversation that needs to be had of global warming, of climate change in general. That we need to do more of our part, and some of y'all out there are doing fantastic work whenever it comes to climate change, recycling and being cognizant of the amount of plastic that you're putting out, and what types of plastic and whatnot, things that have never occurred to me. Now, I know that I don't do enough, and that is something that I'm trying to be cognizant of, and trying to curb that part of my life to make sure that I have a more regular recycling routine, and that I live a more zero waste type of life. So yeah, there are certain conversations that need to be had whenever we're talking about climate change and our responsibility to nature. After all, if we're going to be the pinnacle of the food chain, if we're going to be the head of the food chain, we need to take that responsibility in everything else that we do. If we're going to be ones that are farming the land, we need to know how to take care of said land and what we can and cannot expose to this land. Certain pesticides and whatnot. And it says, we are loyal loyal members to the Earth Tribe, and work in partnership with the mother and father. We work together like a good clan. Absolutely, we work in partnership with Dee Dee, with the mother and father, and and I know that for me, I don't do nearly as much, And there's Jelly sneezing over here, poor girl. But I know that I don't do nearly enough, and that's something that I, especially in the near future, am trying to change and develop. Um, Moving on, because I think I've ranted on that way too long. Um, that it could and probably should be another video. Um, Witches celebrate on these days because they represent alignments of energy from astrological energies to those of the sun and earth. Each holiday is flavored with a particular theme and associated with goddesses and gods who embody those themes. Each day opens a special gateway of knowledge, power, and healing, and their blessings are only available to those times of year. Okay, the first part of that, um, I have here a note, as most holidays, but why are these special? Um, and I can't remember exactly why I put that note. I should have written more. Witches celebrate these days because they represent alignments of energy from astrological energies to those of the sun and earth. Each holiday is flavored with a particular theme and associated with goddesses and gods that embody those themes. Um, yeah, this is the same as with most holidays. They embody a certain theme and whatnot. Um, my thing is, and I think this is why I put those in notes, is that yes, the veil between, let's use Samhain because it's an easy example. Everybody's heard the veil between the worlds is thinning, and that is whenever it's at its thinnest, you're able to communicate with the dead and whatnot. But really, why are we associating October 31st with um, with the dead? And I think, peeling this back, we do have the answers to these. And, we can answer these questions, but asking the question of why are these holidays celebrated in this way? Why do we say that there's more energy at these individual specific times, rather than any other time of the year? Or Annie even did a video on this, and it was, I can't remember exactly what it was titled, but it was about the season of Samhain, the season of Yule, the season of Imbolc, that lasts from the day that you celebrate it to the next day. And I really like that. I really like the way that you can, celebrate the entirety of that season. That is not just that one day, it is an entire season, an eighth of a year, if you will. And I don't know why I put why are these special. I can't remember exactly if I thought why are the energies special for those days, why are the days themselves so special, or why are the deities so special, when in reality, if I would have stopped to think about it, we do have those answers. But again, this is one reason that I constantly tell people, question everything. And right now I'm even questioning why I put those down. But let's go ahead and move on to the second part that I have here. Each day opens a special gateway of knowledge, power, and healing, and their blessings are only available at those times of the year. And I slightly disagree with that. Basically because those blessings are depending on the blessing itself, are available all year round. Let me go back to that page. Hold on. Let's see. Knowledge, power. Let's say knowledge. Okay, what knowledge are you getting during Samhain that you cannot get any other time of the year? The knowledge of the dead, or the knowledge that the dead are imparting to you? Yeah, no, you can get that any time of the year. It may take a little bit more practice and a little bit more processing of everything. But no, you can get to that point at any time of the year with enough practice and enough motivation, enough collective energy, depending on who you are and what your specialty is. That is something that you can do all year long. Special power, again, this depends on the person. And special healing, again, if you are adept at healing, this is something that is like, no, I can do this any time of the year. Yes, this is a pinnacle day, but I can still do it tomorrow or the next day or the day after that. Now the blessings part, depending on what you're talking about whenever you're talking about blessings, I would slightly agree with this. But the other ones, I kind of disagree. I think it has more to do with what you are adept at, what your calling is. Like my calling is more towards the discussion with the dead and whatnot, the divination aspects, communicating with the dead and passing on those messages as they need to be passed on. So that's a large part of my practice, at least it was before. Now my practice has taken more of a knowledge-based approach, where I'm deep diving into the structure of ritual and the structure of why I'm doing what I'm doing, and all those aspects, and that's okay. So I kind of disagree with that. If you're talking about blessings, like certain blessings that you can give on certain days and whatnot, absolutely, I can agree with that. I can bestow a blessing upon a candle during Candlemas. I can also bestow that same blessing any time of the year, but it holds special significance for me if it's done on Candlemas rather than on Samhain or a random Sunday. That type of thing. Moving on to page 360, Sabbats give you a chance to come together as a community. Some come together mystically as our circle. Beyond space and time touches every circle in the world. And this is something that I love. Because when you are in circle, when you are in this ritual space, you are outside of that space and time deal. You're not part of space and time. You're outside of it. You're beyond it. Your circle connects to the next person's, and that creates an unbreakable bond between everybody else that is celebrating Samhain. Let's continue with this one. During that time, during any Samhain of any time, it connects with them, and we pull together our energies. And yes, that could be why it's more beneficial to do a ritual on the day of Samhain, because the energies are there. Everybody's put those energies into that specific day. But then again, if you do a Samhain ritual, and this is just me free thinking here, if you're doing a Samhain ritual in the middle of September, such as now, if I'm doing a Samhain ritual now, right this minute, and I set up my circle, I'm outside of space and time, technically, I would say that I could still connect with everybody else's Samhain ritual and pull from those energies as well. Let me know what you think about this theory in the comment section below. Is it something that's connected to the energies of the day? Because if it is, then you're not truly outside of space and time. But if you are outside of space and time, that means that you can do a Samhain ritual, any time of the year. Moving on. Is further down page 360, and this is under the heading of how we celebrate. Some witches on the go do simple acts of magic and devotion to mark the passing of the year. Okay, I think I got a jelly hair. And this is absolutely true. Sometimes if you are on the go and you don't have the time, because we are busy individuals, absolutely. We are individuals that have jobs and we have families and we have, side hustles, and we have things that we need to do, social media that we need to update and keep up with. Um, families that, family members from across the country that we need to communicate with, um, for one reason or another. And, you know, sometimes whenever we are so much on the go, we need to just do something simple. And that can be something as simple as lighting a candle. You know, sit down, gather your thoughts, light a candle, meditate for a minute. There you go. Be in that be in that moment of the place outside of space and time. I tried to be a little bit more poetic, but it did not quite work. But yeah, simple acts of magic and devotion. Um, you know, again, this can be lighting of a candle. Uh, if you are doing something, this is akin to every New Year's Eve, watching the ball drop, kissing somebody. Simple act of devotion. Rather than doing that, this is a simple act of devotion to deity or to the energies of that season. The next one that I have here is on 363, and he writes, the question of seasons arises when celebrating in the southern hemisphere. If you are orientated to the seasons, you will reverse the holidays. And this is something to remember that it's often forgotten by a lot of authors of pagan books, or the witchy books in particular. Is if you are celebrating certain holidays, then yeah, you are not only talking to those in the demographic of the northern hemisphere. Think for the southern hemisphere people as well, because yes, everything is reversed. Um, and that I think that's something that us as northern or nor did I say northern Americans, northern hemispherians, I think this is something that we forget, is that yes, people live south of the equator and things are in reverse. And I think that's something we just need to remember. The next one I have is on 365. This is under the Yule. And he writes, the winter solstice marks the rebirth of the sun. On this holiday, the night is the longest in the entire year. But from this point forward, the sun's power begins to wax. Absolutely. And the reason I'm reading these is more so because I want to, honor that part of the season. But this one I actually have comments on. This is on 366. Traditional Christmas celebrations mimic the ancient pagan customs of Yule, since so many cultures see this as a time of as the birth of God of light. The Christian Church moved the celebration of Jesus' birthday closer to the solstice. Yes, again, I think this is something to be remembered and to be pointed out to those who are in a privileged religion that is in most areas the predominant religion, and I think that is something that they need to note, but I don't think we need to harp on it too much. Moving on to page 36, or also on 366, and then moving on to 367. This is under Imbolc, which is on 366, and the part that I have underlined is on 367. Christians later called this holiday Candlemas because wreaths and crowns of candles are used to celebrate. It is a festival of growing light to tide us over between Yule and the coming spring. With more light comes more hope. I love Candlemas. It is one of my favorite times of the year. And I think I did a video on Candlemas. I've actually done 2 videos on Candlemas. I do know that. Um, one thing to note is that whenever I was setting up this year of content setup, I actually did want to go through each part of the year, wheel of the year, in that particular season, and I did not do that. So yeah, I'm just calling out myself on that. Yes, that's something that I meant to do and did not, unfortunately. We're going to move on though. To 368 talks about Ostara, and 369 is where I have underlined. The myths of Ostara are preserved in the Christian tale of Easter. Some use the equinox to honor Mary and call this Ladies' Day. And then moving on, actually, yeah, you know what? I do want to touch on this for a minute. I know that being Christo-Pagans, there are some out there who honor Mary, the Mother Mary, um, in their tradition more so than probably what I do. I more honor Mary Magdalene, who I think did have something to do with Christ. Whether or not they had a child in the whole Priory of Sion and Dan Brown book, or Holy Blood, Holy Grail, is actually true. I don't know, and I kind of doubt that. However, I do think that Jesus was man and that he had male urges, and because of the tradition that he was in as a Jewish individual, he would have kept to those traditions and probably would have married. And I think it was Mary Magdalene. But that's just my personal thoughts on that. I am under so many people's recommendation. I am listening to The Way of the Rose on Audible, and I'm absolutely loving it. I'm so enjoying it. I'm probably, I'd say, a third of the way through. I can't even remember now. Yeah, I'm absolutely enjoying it. I love the way that it's told, and it's actually read by the authors with a third person doing the narration of Mary. And I love the symbolism of Mary, the Mother Mary. And I love how they say, you don't have to call her Mother Mary. You can just call her the Mother, or, My Lady, as one of the authors does. And I think that is absolutely beautiful in its way. And I love connecting Ostara to Mary, whether that has anything to do with the time of Ostara or not. I think it fits fairly well. And if we are to take the historical biblical narrative as historical fact, which quite possibly could not be actual fact, if we take that as a historical narrative, that would be around the same time and would make sense as to why there was a resurrection around that time. But yeah, it could totally be not a historical fact, which that's fine. Reading the Bible as a myth has many things that can benefit us as humanity. It also has some things that can be problematic, and I think we need to also have a conversation about that. It's one of those things. Sit down. We need to talk. Moving on to the bottom of the page here, on 369, egg decorating is also popular. The variety of colors and symbols used in the magical eggs can hold specific intention. I love this. Drawing runes or animal totems on eggs is a powerful way to invoke their blessing as a part of your ritual. When you celebrate Ostara, invoke the power of rebirth into yourself and the land. I think that is absolutely beautifully written, and I have no notes. No notes. I don't think. At least not right now. Let's move on to page 370. This is under the title of Beltane, and I have bracketed here. As a fire festival, Beltane is about both sexuality and purification. The Celts would create two large fires of sacred wood to act as a focus for their purification rites. The herd and even people would pass between these fires to purify them from the last vestiges of winter illness. Other rituals of purification involve water and washing of hands and feet with spring water or herbal waters to cleanse, clear, and heal. Fertility rituals were common on Beltane, with a free expression of sexuality in many tribes. Children born roughly 9 months later from this time would be considered very blessed. Special children to be cared for and fathered by the entire tribe. So let's see if I'm part of that. May to June, July, August, September, October, November, December. Nope, I miss it. No, I was born like right on time. And that would only give me about 7 months. So yeah. When was I conceived then? It's April, let's see, March? Yeah, this is awkward for me doing the when did my parents have sex in order for me to be born at the time I was. That's a weird thing. I don't want to think about it again. Answer is March-ish, maybe. So, yeah, I don't have this particular blessing. I have not heard of this particular blessing before, but I find that interesting. And I also find it interesting this is the time of purification. Because we don't really hear about this in the Christian aspects. This being a time of purification and purification rites and whatnot. We don't hear about that. We don't really pay attention to that. This would be the time where, if we were gathered together, I would say that this is the time of, doing the foot washing and whatnot. Now, you don't want to wash my feet. My feet are gangly as hell. But this would be the time, and I get very weird with touching other people's feet, but this would be the time of, paying homage to the purification of the washing of the feet and whatnot. And I do believe some churches out there do that, but I've never actually been part of that. Again, I don't like people touching my feet. I don't like to touch other people's feet. I find them weird. Yeah, they're weird appendages. We're just going to move on from that. But I do... I like the idea of a purification during this time of the year. And then we're going to go on to page 370. I'm going to have a drink here real quick. I have some really cold coffee. So, 371. And here we're talking about the maypole. The pole is also symbolic of the world tree of the shaman and the dance of life around it. As time went on and the tradition was more Christianized, the sexual elements of the holiday were forgotten, and the dance became little more than a dance done in churchyards on a holiday renamed May Day, which my grandmother who has passed. My one grandmother is still alive. My one grandmother who had passed, her birthday was on May Day. So that has significance to me because that was her birthday. The one thing about this, and I find this kind of funny, for as uptight as the church can be, whenever it comes to sexual purity and purity culture and whatnot, which I totally disagree with, but with the purity culture that surrounds the church, I find it very interesting that, there are churches that do the maypole, because that's like totally flies in the face of what the maypole actually is. It's weird that they Christianized it in such a way. And the only time, and I've never actually been part of a maypole, and I've never seen a maypole dance in real life. But the only time that I've ever actually seen it, or the first time that I've ever seen it on television, was with the movie Tom and Huck with Jonathan Taylor Thomas. Oh, so cute. Anyway, it was with him, and they were out at the church, and the kids were all dancing the maypole and blah blah blah, all that stuff. Looking back on that movie now, there is certain issues that are very problematic with that movie. With Joe, the antagonist. Yeah. So very very problematic with some wording there, but that was the 90s, and white culture, and Jonathan Taylor Thomas was still cute, and he still is too. Anyway, it was one of those things that I saw in that movie. I'm like, what are they doing? Why are they dancing around with the ribbons and all that? I didn't understand it, and now being an adult, I know it. And being a Christo-Pagan, I know why, or what the historical significance of that was. But at the time, I found that very strange. And I didn't really know anything about why they were doing it. I didn't know this was a thing. So, yeah, it's just kind of odd that the church adopted that. Moving on, let's see, we continue on to Litha. And the part that I have underlined is on 373. In the Christian calendar, this feast is associated with Saint John and Saint John's wort, a very magical solar-oriented plant. Skipping around a little bit, rituals of Litha are for gathering solar strength to face your dark half and the dark half of the year. And this is something that during this time of the year, I would say that this would be a time. This would be the time that you're in the middle of the hottest portion of the year for many of us. For those in the southern hemisphere, this would be the coldest time of the year. Trying to pay homage to those in the southern half. The whole two witches there. If you get that joke, then you're a viewer on the Pagan Perspective. And it was the running joke that I had that, and I'm going to now explain the inside joke, but it was the running joke that, we had one Aussie, and then, I referred to, it was Brendan was an Aussie witch, and then we had Eric that came onto our Pagan Perspective collab group, and I referred to Eric as the other Aussie witch. And Eric said several times to me, he's like, there are more than just two of us. I said, no, that's completely a misnomer. There's only two Aussie witches. So now you're in on the joke. Have fun with it. Run with it. Make it so. Moving. What did I want to say on this? It is interesting how during the hottest time of the year we are focusing in on something that is so dark. For me, this would be something that I would be more akin to doing during Yule, that I would want to cloister in because of the cold and whatnot. Maybe if you're in Australia, this is something that you do, on this time of the year. But then again, you would be in Yule, so it's a time thing. Anyway, focusing in on the dark side, the dark half. I don't really do that during Litha. This is something that I would stop that. She's clawing, or she's trying to get my attention, and she's ending up clawing on the armrest of my chair, which is not cool. Not cool, Jelly. Not something that I do in the summertime, with regards to focusing on the darker half of my life or of who I am and doing that deep dive. Again, that would be something that would be more akin to for me to do during Yule time, whenever it's cold and we're cloistered, and we are just kind of in our own little habitats, or in our own little hibernations, as it is. So yeah, I kind of disagree with him on that. Um, and I wouldn't see how focusing on the dark half would be part of a solar celebration unless you're bringing the dark to light. That would be the only way that I could make sense of that in my mind. But I'm going to move on. And we're discussing Lammas. And the part that I have for this is on 374. Lammas is the first harvest. When the first grains are ready to be harvested, the ceremonial gathering is followed by a great celebration, as the grain is a fulfillment of the promise of safety and health for the winter months given by the goddess and god to the tribes. Okay, so yeah, I don't really have any notes for this, and I think that this would be more of the celebration than of a Thanksgiving. But then again, I would also think of this as the first fruits, we're going to discuss Mabon here in a minute and how that relates to Thanksgiving. But I would see Lammas as more of a time of sacrifice, or as being the first harvest, giving the first fruits, and sacrificing those to deity for better fruits along the way, or something of that nature. Not necessarily sacrifice as it is offering. That's what I would celebrate more with Lammas, is the giving of the first fruits, and you know being thankful for those first fruits, which again would to me be a form of Thanksgiving. But we reserve that for Mabon, which is on 377, where I have underlined here all the harvests, but Mabon in particular is considered a form of pagan Thanksgiving. We are thankful for the blessings and gifts in our life. Again, he says all the harvests, which would include Lammas, but yeah, I don't. I would probably do 2 times Thanksgiving, and I like that he also gives a little anecdote in here about a friend who loves traditional Thanksgiving celebrations. I'm just gonna read this, but does it on Mabon rather than on the traditional American Thanksgiving, cooking a Mabon turkey. I absolutely kind of love that. I think that is very cool, and I think that's something that we need to start doing here in my house. Yeah, I think we need to do that, and it's a little too close to actually do it this year. When's the 21st? It's Tuesday. I'm actually going to be at work on Tuesday. BT dubs, just a little update. If you follow this far, then then yeah, you're okay to sit back for a second for a little story time. So little update is my partner did get the job that he interviewed for, and he got the job, and Tuesday is going to be the first day that he goes to work. His first day is on Monday. But the first day that the puppies are going to be without both of us for an extended period of time is going to be Tuesday. Yeah, they're so little. They are still in the kennel and whatnot. That's going to be the day before their surgery. So, and my partner's already told them, our dogs are getting fixed on Wednesday, so he's going to be home Wednesday with them, taking them to the vet and bringing them home, and then I get to spend Thursday and Friday with them, and he gets to spend Saturday, and we both are here on Sundays. So yeah, we're both going to be apart from our babies on Tuesday, which is, it would be Mabon. So yeah, just realized that. Son of a gun. that's going to be a while for them to be apart from us for so long, and they're still kennel trained until we're sure everybody's not gonna piddle or diddle in the house. Um, yeah. So yeah, and they love they actually love their kennel. Um, Whenever we bring them inside, they go there. If they're tired, that's where they are comfortable to lay down and everything. They feel safe, especially Dobby, who's a little anxious always. So, moving on. We have Samhain on October 31st. I want to make this a little bit quicker because, well, we're quite far into it here. On 379, the traditions of Samhain were castrated by the Christians and left as a children's holiday as Halloween, but still the spirit survives in it through the ghastly image of the green-faced witches and ghouls. It is one of the most powerful times of the year for the witch, so of course the church made sure to do its best to rob it of power, injecting fear and childishness, if I can get the words out, into into it so others will not find its power. Skipping around here a little bit, the church knew Samhain is not about their heavenly kingdom, so in their simple mythology, the veil could only lead to hell. Instead of receiving loving communication from the ancestors, the veil could allow demons and devils to escape. Quite strong wording from Christopher Penzek on this. You know, after some time, you need to get past it. And I think the Christian church needs to, own up to this. There's a lot that they have not, as a collective, said, hey, yeah, we were quite assholes back then, and we're trying to change, and we're getting there. And depending on the church and whatnot, they will fully take up that mantle, but some will not, and I find that problematic. But yeah, there is a lot that is not said in here about the origins of Halloween and the origins of Samhain and whatnot. And yeah, I think there needs to be a greater discussion, and there needs to be some, not reparations, but some sort of apology. Simply that. Some sort of apology from the church for co-opting so much of a culture's practices. Moving on. Last part that I have is on 381. Some witches bury the ashes of their year's previous spells held in an ash pot on the altar all year long. They are released to start the year anew, honor the ancestors, honor death, turn the wheel of the year with the gods and the goddesses of the underworld as you prepare for the light to wax again. I love this. I have never thought of doing this, but it is totally something that I want to do in this coming rotation of the year, is to keep my spell contents, the ashes, the little balls of wax that you inevitably have to dispose of somehow. Keeping those and putting them in a jar or a container of holding of some sort, and releasing those or disposing of them in an honoring fashion during this time of the year. And I think that's something that I'm going to do in the future here, because I think that is such a wonderful way of disposing of your spell contents, releasing that and taking off the burden of 1 year, and starting the next year with a clean a clean slate, a clean jar, a clean, you know, container of holding. So yeah, I like that idea. I like that practice, and I don't think I've ever heard of that before. And if I have, then I've forgotten, and I would apologize to people who have said it before. But yeah, I don't remember ever hearing that before, and I think it's a wonderful practice. Then we have an exercise. We have some homework here. Complete exercise 35. Continue regular altar devotional and any other regular meditative practice. Practice divination techniques. Continue journaling regularly. Celebrate the moon through ritual. And then we have some tips. Experience the holidays before you try to intellectualize them too much. If you try to make it work as one coherent story in one single culture, you will have difficulty unless you receive divine inspiration and understanding from the gods. Learn all you can about the holidays, but in the end, experience and enjoy. And I love that. I love that. Take 1 year and experience the holidays and how they make you feel and whatnot, and delve into the lore and whatnot behind them. Yes, absolutely, and honor that, but also just enjoy it. The next year, whenever it comes around, you can do a deeper dive, and then the year after that, and then the year after that, diving deeper and connecting yourself more to the the ways of each individual turning of that year, turning of that wheel. I'm sorry. Next is there is no right way to celebrate, just as there is no right way to eat a good meal. Unwrap presents. I disagree. There is a right way to unwrap presents, and that is to devastate the wrapping, take it all off, and rip it to shreds, and then say, "Oh, thanks," for the gift underneath of it. Yeah, as much as I love my grandmother, the one that has already passed, she was always about saving the wrapping and being very careful to unwrap when you unwrap gifts. You can't tell that to a 6-year-old. Come on, stop it. And you can't tell it to somebody that's well into his 30s. No, stop. I'm not. Yeah, no. I'm unwrapping that gift feverishly. Let's see. Or spend an evening with friends. These celebrations are magical, but don't let the worry of getting it right prevent you from celebrating the season. Marking the holiday is the most important aspect of it. How you mark it is up to you. And I don't even think that you need to mark the individual holiday, that one day. Like Annie said, this is a season, and you can mark that holiday. You can honor that holiday at any point in that season. And I think that's something that we need to note. We need to draw attention to more, because a lot of times, if I don't get to celebrate Maven on Tuesday, you know what? I'm off Wednesday night. I'm home Wednesday night and don't have anywhere to be on Thursday morning. So, yeah, I'm completely okay with celebrating Wednesday or Thursday or Friday or Saturday. Well, I'm at work on Saturday during the day. But yeah, I think that's something that we need to normalize, that if we are not able to celebrate this day on that particular day, that's okay. Just like, we can celebrate Christmas, a week ahead of time, because that's when everybody can get together, and that's whenever, everybody has either collectively off work, or, they're worried about a storm coming, or whatever the reason is. Maybe somebody's going away for a vacation, and so this is the one time everybody can be together, and we need to realize that we can do the same with the pagan holidays as we do with Christmas. Christmas is an experience more than a significant one time a year day. And the same can be said about Yule. We can celebrate in the season of Yule rather than, on that specific December 21st day. And I think we need to normalize that. And I think that it would be okay to normalize that. But hey, those are my thoughts. Tell me what you thought of this chapter. This is a long video. This is one reason I wanted to do it in 2 takes, because I knew I would get on a rant. But yeah, tell me what you thought of chapter 14, lesson 10, Turning the Wheel of the Outer Temple Witchcraft by Christopher Penczak. Join me next week. We're going through chapter 15, lesson 11, Weaving the Web. And that one's a fairly short chapter. So yeah, we're getting close to the end of the book here. And yeah. So are we going to continue with the Temple of Shamanic Witchcraft? Or is that something that we're doing? That one I wanted to read that book before like any of the others. And I think it has some wonderful pieces in there that I have co-opted into my practice even before reading the book in its entirety. But since we are reading completely through the books, this is something that I want to do. So do we want to continue with the shamanic part, or do we want to continue, or do we want to go with something such as modern magic, or what's another one that we can do? Not modern witch. Let's see. Oh, where is it? Oh, son of a gun. Nope, that's not it. Okay. I was trying to find the other book by Devin Hunter that I wanted to read, which was the Witch's Book of Spirits. And it's around here somewhere. It's probably like right behind me staring at me. But yeah, do we want to read something else? Or do we want to go with the shamanic one? Either way, you know, I'm not having a voting power in this. So vote as you will, and let me know in the comments below. The voting is done whenever this, whenever we reach chapter, oh, what's the last chapter of this book? Chapter 17. So you have like, you know, what, 3 weeks to catch up and give me your input, something like that. It needs to be like voted on by the time that I actually produce chapter 17, so I know what book we're going on to next. But yeah, leave your comments down below. Vote via Twitter, and you know, send me a little tweet saying, hey, shamanic or some other book, and yeah, I'll put together. If the overwhelming majority says go to a different series or a different book type entirely, at least to give a palate cleanser, then I'll pull a couple books down and we'll, you know, vote on those. I would probably more go towards modern magic. It is a more ceremonial type, and I quite enjoy it. But yeah, and I would actually do all of the different the different parts with that. So yeah, I want to get a little bit more, especially whenever talking about ceremonial stuff. You are standing, you are walking, you are doing things. And for that, I would actually want to maneuver around, and I want to play, you know, around a little bit with camera positionings and whatnot. And so we would actually be doing stuff and getting out of the seat into the ritual space that is on the other side of this monitor. So anyway, however you vote, just vote. And this is way too long. Anyway, until next time, may you have love, hugs, and ladybugs. Bye-bye.